the Idle Talk podcast. My name is Peyton, and I'm joined again by my best friend, Jacob. We are finally here talking about the finale of Survivor 46. Spoilers, obviously, for the finale of 46 and the entire season of Survivor 46. Jacob, can you believe that we are finally here at the end of Survivor 46?
I feel like this season has been going on for so long. I mean, I know it's over the course of 13 weeks, which is a little less than 4 months, because it started at the very end of February, and it's almost June now. So it's been going on for quite a while. But I also feel like that is in part due to just the amount of stuff that has happened each season, and every episode feeling like so jam-packed, and every episode having the monumental thing that happened. So I feel like for those reasons, the season just felt like it was very, very long. Not in a bad way, though. Not that it felt like it dragged, but it felt like a very long season.
The first 2 episodes were 2 hours, and then every episode after that was 90 minutes, and then the finale was 3 hours, if you count the reunion. I think that it might be, minute for minute, the longest season of Survivor. I don't know if that can be confirmed, because there are some older seasons that have more episodes, and they would have that half-season catch-up episode and all that sort of stuff.
But I don't think there's a season that has more episodes than like 16.
We might need to run the numbers. It was definitely a lot of Survivor, which isn't a bad thing at all. We're not complaining. It gives us a lot of stuff to talk about, gave us a lot of good television to watch. It definitely went a long time. But it's also weird because it feels like we were just started the season yesterday sometimes as well. It feels like we were just discussing our preseason predictions and drafting these players and trying to figure out who was going to be the one to actually win it. And we thought we were being big-brained, picking out, okay, who's going to be voted out early, who's going to make it far. And then the season started. It was really moving really fast, and then it kind of dragged for a while. And now we're finally here. So the season has felt somehow long and incredibly short at the same time. I think that kind of always happens with stuff that you really love and enjoy. I think that happens with like every movie that I really like. It kind of feels like it goes by too fast and lasts for almost too long sometimes. You're really enjoying it the whole time, if that makes sense. It's a weird phenomenon.
It's probably also compounded by the fact that we're in the era of streaming, and weekly releases just kind of have become a thing of the past for a lot of scenarios.
Yeah.
Like, this is the first time I've watched live. We watched last season a few of the episodes live. Like, we watched the finale live, but I believe most of the episodes we watched them the day after. We just stayed off social media and just watched them the day after on Paramount Plus. But
yeah.
So yeah, this is the first time I've just like watched cable television in a very, very long time.
For the most part, content nowadays is just kind of dumped in mass and you consume it. Even the old Survivor seasons right now, we can watch all of them. We powered through Marquesas in a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. We finished it. We have the finale left. That's it. We're basically done with Marquesas. And so we're going to be moving on to the dreaded season 5 of Survivor right after that, which I'm not thrilled about. We're so used to now just consuming content so quickly and having that instant gratification of knowing what happens next that we're not used to, back in the day. I say back in the day, like it wasn't when I was in middle school and high school, but in the pre-budget era Survivor, I mean, we just watched Survivor, like we watched cable television. I remember watching weekly releases all the time of TV when cable was the norm. And Survivor was one of those shows that I would watch every week with my family. Like, I remember watching Koarong live on TV. I remember watching David versus Goliath and Millennials versus Gen X. Like, I watched those live on TV. And watching those every week, that was super cool and really fun. I think we're in a different position now where we're also like analyzing it every week and we're really deep in the weeds of it. So I think we're kind of in a different position now too. How do you feel now that we're a day removed, because we're recording this about 24 hours after the finale started yesterday. So we're not quite 24 hours from the result of the finale, but we're about close to that. How are you feeling? You've had more time to process the results than Charlie did before he was asked how he felt. A lot more. How are you feeling now that you've had some time to process how the finale ended?
So I was never disappointed that Kenzie won in the slightest. I really like her. I think she's great. She's really good television. She's entertaining. She had a very, very strong social game. And she obviously, I think, had, even though I don't think she had the best overall game, she definitely communicated her game the best out of the three of them and the final tribal council. So I totally understand why she won. And I think she is totally a deserving winner. I totally think she's a great winner. But I personally believe Charlie played the better game overall. It sucks that the reasons that he lost are for reasons outside of the game. That's the thing that frustrates me the most. The reasons that he lost were for reasons that don't have to do with the game. And I know that outside influences are always going to have an effect on a jury because it's impossible to be an unbiased person. Every juror is entitled to vote on whatever criteria that they deem worthy. People can vote however they choose and use whatever criteria
Pick
they
a
decide.
number 1 to 100.
Yeah. They can choose whatever criteria they want to decide who to vote for. I may disagree with it a portion of the time, but they can do whatever they want. So, yeah, I am still kind of bummed because I do think Charlie is equally as deserving of a winner. And I think even in the flip side scenario, you would probably be saying the same thing, that Charlie's a great winner, but you would have been just as happy if Kenzie won. So that's kind of how I'm feeling about the whole situation. And we can discuss the details of it more intricately, but that's where my head's at a day removed from the finale.
Yeah. I also have thoughts. I don't know how deep we want to go into this right now. I don't know exactly how we didn't really talk about how we wanted to approach this episode because I think there's a lot of things for us to talk about. We've had some back and forth over Twitter a little bit, like in Twitter DM sending tweets, mostly you sending me tweets throughout the day while I've been working, but we haven't really talked about the finale since we watched it last night. And so this is mostly just going to be us having a conversation about it and processing it over a recording for everybody else to listen to, and then engaging with our audience and asking them for feedback and seeing what other people have to say. I think maybe we could start from the end and talk about the voting and tribal council, and then we could kind of go back to the beginning and work our way back up to that, because I think really that is the center kind of point of the episode, right? And that at the end of the day, that's what the finale is about, is who the winner is. And that's kind of the main point of discussion, and that'll even get us into talking about Maria, I think. But I think what you were getting at was Q's vote, right?
Q
Because
and
that was what you're talking about outside the game, was really Q's vote. Because Maria's vote was bitter. Maria said the stuff about fire in her eye and this girl needs money and all this other stuff. I think that was BS.
Oh yeah,
I don't think that had anything to do with why she voted for Kenzie. I think she can say that. She voted for Kenzie. I'm going to take this back. My opinion, I'm not going to, is it slander or libel if it's spoken? Slander?
Mm-hmm.
Libel's written. I will not slander. I am going to say my opinion is that I believe that Maria did not want, she felt that if she can't win, Charlie can't win.
Yeah.
Unlike Tiff, for example, would be this season.
Mm-hmm.
If I can't win, Kenzie should win.
That's how a pair.
That's what you would expect.
And I fully expected Maria to give Charlie a hard time in the final tribal council, because I feel like that's what pairs tend to do, is they're not going to let him have it easy. but they also kind of like try and like champion them and like present them as like their champion almost. Like Tiffany very obviously was challenging Kenzie, but also like rooting for her.
Yeah.
It was very obvious. But then you have Maria like kind of throwing like backhanded statements at Charlie that were kind of just like directly countering what he was saying, but not in like a good way. And it was just really disappointing to watch. And I totally agree that I think it's my opinion that she had the mentality of, if I can't win, neither can you, instead of, if I can't win, you should win.
And it sucks because Charlie 100% in the reverse scenario would have voted for Maria.
Yep.
And that, I think that really sucks because, that's just the person that Charlie is. And I don't know if that's just because, I don't know if Charlie's a sucker or if Maria's disingenuous and was like playing him the whole time.
I read it as Maria being disingenuous
or if it's a little bit of both, because early on, pre-merge especially, I read their relationship as being very wholesome. It felt very legit. It read very honest, very truthful, very real, very connected. And I do think that if Charlie would have ripped the Band-Aid off earlier and cut her loose a vote or two earlier, he would have probably got her vote.
Another reason that I also think it was a spiteful vote, but Charlie's had interviews today, and in one of them, he made a statement that he said, in the past couple of days, she sent me a text about what she was going to say in our exit press, and it was totally inconsistent with everything we've talked about this past year and everything I've heard from Ponderosa and everything in the show, and that stung a lot. So, in my personal opinion, because he also has said in his exit interviews that Maria has said that she regrets voting for Kenzie, and she wishes she voted for Charlie. And she's also said that she 100% stands by voting for Kenzie. So, given
she's telling him one thing.
So, given those reasons, I 100% believe that she did not make a thoughtful vote, and like it was not a vote for Kenzie to win, it was a vote for Charlie to lose.
Yeah. Which I think sucks. That really sucks. Even more than just taking away from Charlie, that takes away from Kenzie's game. I think that's disrespectful to Kenzie as well, because I think Kenzie, I've said it the whole time. I think I personally, this is also just like biased. Like obviously we've established on this podcast, you were biased towards Charlie. You thought Charlie should have been the winner. I was biased towards Kenzie, thought she should have been the winner. So obviously, like, I'm happy she won. The way all of this went down is going to forever stain and taint her legacy as a winner. It just is. There's always going to be the comment, Charlie should have won. Kenzie's not the rightful winner. This whole issue is going to stain that even further, and her casting a vote for Kenzie is like not even a vote for Kenzie. Like, she might as well have just voted for Ben. Like, even know why she voted for Kenzie at that point. Why didn't she just vote for Ben? You know what? It didn't even matter. It was a throwaway vote was what she did. Like, it's almost an insult to be throwing that vote away kind of towards someone else. She's saying, like, I don't actually want... It feels like I don't actually really want to vote for you. I just really don't want him to win, and I know that if I vote for you, I think that'll be enough.
Well, and now all of the online discussion is just solely about that and not about the fact that Kenzie just won Survivor.
Yeah. And it sucks. Like, it's really a bummer because I think that she's a really good winner. Like, I think that it would have been a really exciting win if it wouldn't have all gone down in that way. If she would have even if she would have given a halfway decent BS answer,
I would have had so much more respect for her if she just straight up said, I thought Kenzie played a better game than you.
That's it.
And that's harsh.
I wouldn't have, it would have sucked. It would have been brutal. It would have been total BS. But at least we're not going to be sitting here having this conversation. Then we would be talking about Q. But Q has been an enigma this whole game, and we're just going to pass it off as Q being freaking Q. He has blown up this whole game. I don't even think he should have been on the island. So that's on.
I loved him. He was great.
I'm saying he should have been voted out way earlier. Q shouldn't have been allowed to last as long as he did and have as much influence as he did on the game.
Yeah.
So that's on everyone else for keeping him around there. It just kind of taints the whole Kenzie win. One thing that has been a big topic of conversation is the way the live post final tribal conversation happened, where the votes are revealed. They do the immediate after show now. It used to be called the reunion show.
Yeah.
But now it's not reunion, it's just after show, where they all come in, eat pizza, drink champagne, and talk right after, and they get the raw, real emotion. They ask a bunch of hard-hitting questions. Thank goodness Jeff did not ask the question that he asked on Fire, where he asked Ben who he would have voted for.
Yeah, that would have...
If he would have asked... I am honestly a little upset at Jeff. But not upset at Jeff. I understand you're sitting there and you're prying for questions. I think it
just feels invasive.
Jeff. I think that's fine. Enough time has passed. I think they cleared all these questions, I think, with them beforehand.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, in the actual after show, going and asking Maria why she didn't vote for Charlie in the moment, that's a 100% on Jeff and production. I don't think you should be asking that question right after Charlie has just lost. That's the sort of thing that I think you need to be able to read the room. And I understand it's going to make good TV. It's going to cook up a lot of stuff on social media. People are going to get that answer immediately. You know, I think that you need to be considerate of the people who have just spent 26 days on the island for you, making this content and this TV for you. Like, it feels like you should be a little bit considerate of how he's feeling in this moment. If you're going to do this after show, I wouldn't pry so deep. Maybe, like, if they're going to go there and ask that, if they're going to do it themselves, let it go there. But I think that was kind of, I think that's on Jeff very specifically for targeting and asking that question.
Yeah.
Because,
I mean, I know, like, we're obviously in the budget era, and Jeff's reasoning for having the after show directly after the votes have been read is so the emotions are high, like, people are fresh. He wants to capture what people are feeling in the moment, which I understand. But at the same time, even these really bad circumstances, even like a 7-1 vote, like this in season 41, 42, 43, and 44, even in all those seasons where the other contestant only got 1 vote, so it wasn't even close. I would still, if I was either of those people who had just lost, I would be not in the mood to talk about what I was feeling. I don't even like...
Owen received 0 votes and has been outspoken since 43, saying very clearly that the after show should not be a thing. He has just been very outspoken and said that it sucks and he doesn't like it.
It feels very, like, invasive. Jeff has his reasons, but I personally, if I was Charlie, I would have legit probably said, like, I can't talk about this right now. Like, I need a moment.
So one thing, though, that I think we should talk about is normally, in the past, they normally do the reunion show directly after the votes are revealed for the first time. So they go straight from the votes being read to the reunion show, and it's being read for the very first time straight into the reunion show. So it is a quick transition. It's the same amount of processing time, but it's happening anywhere from 6 months to a year later. You're being off the island.
Yeah, you have, like, been removed from the island mentality. Yeah. You haven't just been starved and depleted of everything in your body for the last month.
Mm-hmm.
You're in a much better headspace.
Yep.
So
you've had time to get to know the people that you've been on the island with outside of that context. You're not able to talk. No one's allowed to tell who they voted for. I'm skeptical about the fact that no one knows the winner before it's revealed. Apparently, those NDAs are like lock and key tight, like really good, and no one says who they voted for. I don't know if it was done the traditional way, if Maria and Charlie, like, would they be friends before, like, leading up to, because this would be the first, no, it was the second season, so they would have had to wait a whole year until this review. Would they have been friends for an entire year?
And Maria's just keeping that secret from him?
It the whole time?
That would suck.
I don't know if she could do that, because I think she would be holding on to that bitterness. I just don't know how that dynamic works if there's something like that. I feel like they have to hash that out. So that's something that kind of goes over my head. But at least they've had time removed from the island is my main point.
Last thing I kind of want to say on this Maria situation, because honestly, I don't really feel like giving her the time of day, because it's just like, it's just honestly like just a really crappy thing to do to a person. But like, she had to have known when she got up to that voting booth and didn't write Charlie's name down that she was probably severing their friendship outside the game. There's no way that she didn't consider that if I do this, I probably won't be friends with him anymore. And if she truly believes that Kenzie was the better player, played the better game, and she thinks it's worth severing her friendship with Charlie in order for her conscience to be clear about voting for the right person, then fine. But it just does not come across that way. And that really frustrates me too, because their friendship seemed super genuine from what we saw on television. She had to have known that this would probably be the end of their friendship if she cast that vote.
Yeah. I just don't know how you can be essentially like best friends hanging out 24/7 with someone for 26 days, calling yourself number ones, going through it, make it to the end.
Say you're going to vote for him.
Tell him you're going to vote for him. Tell him that like he's going to be the new uncle to your kids. Say that you mean it. Try to get him out. He outsmarts you, gets you out. I would respect that so much. Like, suck. It would suck so hard. Like, I would hate it. But I would be like, I was trying to do the same thing. Good on you.
Game recognizes game.
Like I'm pissed, but good job. Like I'm gonna be really mad. It's gonna take me time to process that, but good job. I told you what I was gonna do. Like, I'm gonna vote for you. Like, we've been in this together. If I can't get it, you get your bread. It's $1 million. I'm not gonna stand in the way of $1 million. And the fact that I just don't know how $1 million, like, I don't know how $1 million she knows that that's life-changing money. Like, clearly she talked about that being, it's life-changing money for Kenzie too. And I'm not going to take away from that, because obviously I wanted Kenzie to win it personally. It just feels like it sucks that it happened the way that it did. So moving off of Maria for now, we'll come back to her when we talk a little bit about the challenge. But on the other side of all of this, I think it's worth talking about Q just a little bit. I know that you're not a fan of Q's voting criteria and him saying that he was only voting based on how they answered his question, what they're going to do with the money. And you said that you don't think that people should be voting on things external to the game, and that should not impact the game. Like, they should only be voting on how they played the game specifically, right? So I guess my question is, I feel like the entire game, like, Survivor is a social game, right? And so how everyone plays Survivor, like, Survivor is heavily informed by the way that you play the game. And everyone who is there has already talked about what they're going to do with the money. Except for apparently Liz, who has been lying about what she's going to do with the money. For some reason. Because she's been saying the whole time she's going to be a millionaire, and then she dropped the bomb on Twitter today that she's not. Which, that was crazy news. But, I mean, Liz said on Fire, or not Liz, Kenzie said on Fire that she talked about it, that they had sat around the fire and talked about multiple times what they were going to do with the money if they won. And she'd been honest all season, saying that she was getting the money for herself and that she was being selfish. So everyone already knew the answer to these questions. So my question, I guess, is, he probably already knew the answer to that question. If he was voting on that criteria, he probably already had made up his mind in terms of which way he was going to go. Maybe he just wanted to hear somebody else's, or wanted to hear them all three laid out. I mean, it's clear they had already all talked about that sort of stuff. And also, all of them have already been talking about this the whole game. And honestly, these external circumstances are the reason that you go on Survivor in the first place. Like, we can't be oblivious to that fact. The only reason that anyone goes onto Survivor is to win the money. And so, regardless of the fact of whether it is outside of the game or not, anything that is outside of the game is inside of the game at the same time, because everything that is outside of the game informs how you are inside of the game. So I think they kind of are one and the same. So now I do think that it is kind of dumb. I think it's dumb to base your entire vote off of that one question. I think that that's a stupid strategy to vote. I wouldn't vote that way. I think that you should vote a bit more rounded and holistically. If you're going to vote off of one question, whatever, I think that's stupid. But I don't know if it's fair to necessarily, or I want to challenge and discuss maybe, like, is it fair to invalidate his question completely? Because, do you know what I'm saying? Like, they've talked about this the whole time, and everyone's out there to win the money for something. And they've all probably discussed this already. Is there harm in asking this question? People have asked this question in the past. If it influences his vote one way or the other, does it matter just because it changed his vote? Like, if it didn't change his vote, would we care? Do we only care because it changed his vote?
I mean, I personally still care because I think everyone who goes on Survivor, yes, obviously, if you're going on Survivor, you're going because you want a shot at winning $1 million. And people also just want to play Survivor. But yeah, the $1 million is a great motivator. The externals of the game are going to make its way into the game. It's obviously impossible for it to not to. My thing with that question is everyone's there for the money. I just personally don't love this is probably going to sound like so elitist. The problem that I have with that line of questioning is everyone wants the money just as much as the next person. My parents have more money than me because they've been working for 50 years. But I'm sure that I would love to win $1 million just as much as my parents would want to win $1 million. And so my issue with that line of questioning is it lends itself to potentially reward someone for reasons that shouldn't be in the game to begin with. Because everyone is there to win the money. Everyone wants the money just as much as the person next to them. I'm sure Charlie wanted the money just as much as Kenzie. In Q's opinion, Kenzie's reason was more compelling than Charlie's. But that doesn't mean Charlie wants the money or needs the money any less than Kenzie does. So that's the issue that I have with the question, is because the Q's perception of who needs the money more is inherently flawed and inherently biased. So that's why I don't like the question, because it's impossible for him to say definitively, Kenzie, you need the money most. That's why I'm going to vote for you.
Okay, so I agree it's inherently biased, but isn't the point of a Survivor jury that all of them are inherently biased in whatever criteria or thing they're deciding is their reason to vote for someone, they're going to inherently be biased. So I think this person is the better player because of this, right? They are biased, or this person deserves the money because of this,
Yes, and
so
those
all
are
inherently biased.
Yes, but those are reasons internal to the game. You are going to think someone plays a better game, and that's your prerogative, that's your bias, that's your opinion. But those are internal to the game. That's my main thing, is I don't like when someone decides. It could have, I hate the pick a number between 1 and 10, because that's something external to the game. It's the same. I have that same feeling for any question that's external to the game. If he had asked them, what's your favorite color? And Q's favorite color is blue, and whoever said their favorite color was blue, that's who he was going to vote for. Like, questions that are external to the game, they just don't vibe with me. But you can vote however you want, and that's how Q deemed he was going to vote. And I can't change that. That's just my opinion, that I personally think that is not the correct way to vote. And if I was a juror, that is not how I would make my decision.
I agree. That's not how I would vote either. And that's not how the majority of people would vote. But there's almost always one juror who's a wild card juror, and it's always been that way in Survivor. It's interesting, but there's almost always one who votes kind of off their rocker and votes for a weird reason, or can't make up their mind, or is voting in alphabetical order, or is whatever reason is voting in some other sort of way. I do think, though, I don't think that you can compare voting based on who they think deserves the money to voting, picking 1 to 100. I don't think that those are necessarily comparable, because I do think that how someone because I think you can learn a lot about someone based on how they answer that question, more than just what their answer to that question is. And so I don't think that Q was, and I might be giving him more credit than he deserves as well, but it's sort of like in a job interview, right? When they're asking you a question in a job interview, they're not just looking for the answer to the question that they asked. They're looking for how you answer the question that they asked. So Kenzie, she could have said whatever she wanted to say, and same thing with Charlie, and same thing with Ben, but it's a lot of the time, I think it's more how you answer it. And so it was, and I think in On Fire, Kenzie, she said, she was able to see Q's reaction, and she gained his respect with her answer and the way that she answered it. And that was what Q was looking for, someone to, whatever he was looking for in their answer, she ticked the box. And so I don't know if it was a very specific criteria in terms of deserving the money, or the way that she answered it, and probably a combination of both. And it could have been leaning towards actually deserving the money. But I do think there's also a facet of, I think that no matter what the question is, there's always silly questions that jurors ask. They ask questions that don't relate to Survivor and strategy and other things. And they're fun and silly and weird, and they're external to the game. And, where they will ask them questions like, what's your favorite color, sort of things, and those sort of questions, because they're asking them those sort of fun job interview type questions, because they want to see how they react and what they answer. And so I think that that's kind of the other side of it. What I have the problem with Q more specifically is that he said he is only voting based off of how they answered his question. But that's the most Q thing ever, is that he only cares how they answer his one question. He didn't listen to anything else. All of that tribal. He didn't care. None of that mattered. It's his one question, and that's it.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me in the slightest. I wish I could control how everyone votes in Survivor, and I think I would have great decisions. So we could move on from this topic and maybe start to talk more about what happened earlier in the episode. Specifically, we can talk about both immunity challenges. Do you want to start with the final 5 immunity challenge?
Yes. Let's do that one where they team up on Maria. And that's where Kenzie and Liz, well, not even really Kenzie and Liz. Kenzie is very close to winning. She completes her puzzle.
She solves the puzzle.
She's counting the lizards and then realizes that she needs to get her plank. And Liz just runs to go get it.
It's off running.
Just goes. And doesn't ask, nothing. Just goes and gets it.
Yeah.
Doesn't go and get her own. Goes and gets Kenzie's.
Yeah.
I thought she was going to grab her own, but she went and got Kenzie's.
For context, if for some reason someone is listening to this episode who hasn't watched the finale or anything like that.
Crazy person.
They, in the middle of this, in one section of the challenge, they had a rope that there was a plank with holes in it, and there was a rope that was threaded through all of these holes, and they had to unwind the rope through all the holes to move the plank out of the way to be able to continue forward. And so that was in like the first like quarter of the obstacle course.
Very early.
So when they solved the puzzle, it was revealed that they had to do a combination lock where they got 2 numbers from the number of geckos on the puzzle, and then the other 2 numbers from the amount of holes in the plank. So Liz, when she realized this, in order to help Kenzie beat Maria to ensure Maria didn't win immunity, Liz ran back onto the other side of the obstacle course, grabbed Kenzie's plank, brought it to Kenzie, and then they solved the combo lock together. So Kenzie won immunity, stealing the immunity away from Maria, because Maria probably would have won if Liz didn't help. Or else
Maria was very close.
Even with her helping, she was still very close. She was able to get her plank and bring it back and was in the process of counting when they solved the combo lock.
Yep.
So it was still extremely close. I'm very happy that Liz helped Kenzie and that Maria was voted out at 5. As much as we've been trash talking Maria the last like half hour, I will say she was probably the best player this season. She was very, very dominant, very strategic, very social, good at immunity challenges. Almost tied the record for most immunity wins for a female in a single season, which is extremely impressive. Props to her for getting 3 immunity wins. So I know we've been talking a lot of crap, but I do want to say she is an amazing player. Best of the season.
Like, led the vote to get out someone with an idol in their pocket, not even realizing it.
4 times.
Pre-merge.
Well, 3 times. 3 times.
But like pre-merged, got Gem, and then was on the right side of the vote for all the people except for Q.
Executed probably the best blindside of the season with Tiffany.
Yeah. She was very dominant. And then, especially given her arc at the end, if they do Heroes versus Villains 2, I would have not expected that halfway through the merge, would not have picked her to be on the villain tribe. I probably wouldn't have picked her to be on the heroes either. I wouldn't have really like casted her in that season, but
yeah.
She is, we've already said this season is just like all villains. Oh my goodness. She's 100% a villain. And Charlie on the heroes, that'd be
so good.
Oh my gosh.
Because Charlie's for sure
got to cast that. Yeah, that's got to be in our season 50 like episode where we're casting like potential season 50s. One of them's Heroes versus Villains 2, or like new era season like Heroes versus Villains. That's got to be one of them. So anyways, I do think she played like one of the best seasons. So one thing I do want to ask while we're still here talking about this section, and I do want to ask about Liz running back and grabbing Kenzie's plank. Does this set a dangerous precedent? Because she interfered with another survivor's course.
I've seen a lot of discourse about it online.
That is something that I thought about in the moment. I thought she was running to get her own. And I was like, oh, you better hope they have the same number of holes. And then she grabbed Kenzie's. And I thought Jeff was going to tell her no way. I did not think he was going to allow her to bring back Kenzie's plank. I was shocked when he did not say anything.
Yeah.
Because what is to stop someone from running, grabbing it, and just chucking it in the bushes or in the water or what? Like, why? What's the line?
Well,
but
I think
why is it okay to help someone and not hurt someone? You know, because by helping someone, you are hurting someone. You know, you're inevitably. So why is it okay here and not there?
Sophie,
and
she's trying to be Ozzy.
yeah, it's Sophie and someone else.
I don't know who she's talking to, but they're trying to be Ozzy.
They're trying to be Ozzy, but they're coming from behind. And so I think that's the distinction versus being in the lead. I don't really know, but it feels like there's some gray area here, and there was already precedent sort of set, and now it feels like
I don't know.
Some rules need to be clarified or established.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do, because it almost kind of seems like the thing that they may just do like a case-by-case basis.
The thing is like in that moment, there's no time for, because they have the I don't remember what they call their team there.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But they have like that team there. But in the moment, you can't, I don't think that they have the time to step in and tell. Maybe they had time while she was running back. They probably were like, yeah, this is fine in his ear, or in his walkie-talkie. I don't really know if they had the chance to really think about it, but it just feels like that's a really a risky area to be in.
I think it can open a can of worms.
Yeah. And I mean, we've seen this in the past too with was it season 43?
People have helped each other.
I know, but it was the 3 tribes, whatever the other 2 tribes were.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
They teamed, like it was.
They were like helping them do the puzzle.
Yeah, they were helping with the puzzles to get Coco out because they wanted Coco to go to tribal.
I do remember that.
And then that was the one where Gio went home, I think. But
I know
Noelle ended up helping out someone on yellow. So, anyways, yeah. But that they had collusion sort of over there, and they helped each other, and Jeff didn't say anything. So, the precedent's been set that you can help one another and assist one another. We've never had something like that level of, like, we've had speaking and assisting, but not this level of directly interacting with someone's actual challenge. Like, could you go over and hold someone up on the get a grip? Like, what's the line? Can I go hold someone up on get a grip?
Well, no, because you'd be out of the challenge.
I know, I'm out, but they're not.
Yeah, but like you couldn't interact with the challenge because you're out. Liz is still in the challenge.
I'm trying to think of what's the line of like the puzzle Plinko one. Am I able to, if I just decide, you know what, I don't even want to play, I'm going to leave my ball just down there in the little bowl. I'm going to sit over here and watch your ball. I'm just going to keep throwing it. You build the puzzle. Can I do that?
I have no idea.
It starts to get, you could take it really far. If there were 2 people that said, hey, we're just going to go to the end, we're going to do challenges together, it becomes a real, I think you start to open yourself up to a lot of things if you start letting people do challenges together. It was fun because it was unexpected. I think that it's different if Liz brings back her plank and they happen to be the same number of holes. That's fine. If they're different number of holes, that sucks. But yeah, anyways, that is definitely something that I was thinking about the whole time because that felt like a weird precedent to be setting.
Yeah.
After that challenge, then there was, so Maria gets voted out, obviously. And then we get the most advanced version of the Plinko Ball puzzle building challenge. Massive version.
The
for
challenge
Final
was
Immunity.
Very cool.
So loved it.
So essentially what the challenge was is they had a giant Plinko board and they had to hurl their ball to the top of the Plinko. And while their ball is going down the Plinko, you can solve the puzzle. But you have to not let your ball hit the bottom, because if it hits the bottom, it goes down this like really long track and you just have to sit there and wait for it to get off the track before you can start again. So it's like a time management thing of how long can you work on the puzzle before you need to go grab your ball before it drops going through the little Plinko thing. So really, really cool. Crazy that Ben won. Absolutely insane that he's been like sleep deprived on the island. He had said he slept like 2 hours the night before. So
he said he slept 2 hours a night for 14 days straight.
Yeah, like absolutely sleep deprived. So insane that he won. Why? Like really, honestly, just so wild. Ben wins. Obviously, he gets the decision of Charlie, Kenzie, Liz. And then we just get this really odd moment that had me and you both confused, where Ben is just like, yeah, Liz, you're the biggest threat. You're going to fire. And then he's picking between Kenzie and Charlie to make a fire against Liz. And I feel like in that moment, both of us were sitting there like, what? Like, he's perceiving Liz as the biggest threat?
We were under the assumption that he was going to take Liz.
Yeah.
But Liz was not. She was hoping that he was going to take her, but she thought that she was going to get sent to fire because she thinks that she is the biggest threat as well, because she's delusional. But that's another conversation.
I strive to be that level of delusional.
She had some of the funniest moments possibly of the entire season, and I don't even know how that's possible.
The new era as a whole.
I don't understand. There's a lot of times that I don't understand why people on the island perceive other people as threats. But that's just because we're getting to see what's called a God view, right? We know it all. We literally know everything except for who wins in the end. So we have context. So it's hard to get in their frame of mind. And so I guess the Nami votes lingered a lot for Ben. And he thought that she really had the Nami votes in the bag. And so having 4, like if you assume that she's got 4 Nami votes, I mean, that's all you need, I guess.
Yeah.
Game over. So like, I guess that was his thought process.
The other thing that kind of confused me about his mentality is it seemed like he wasn't trying to pit the person against Liz who would be most confidently taking her out. It seemed like he was just wanting to take he was debating who his number one ally was and wanted to take his number one ally with him.
That was what I was
and
about.
He wasn't like leaving the person to hopefully take out Liz. Like he had mentioned a few times like, oh, Charlie seems like he's the better fire maker, but he's like my number one ally. I don't want to send him to go do that. Like that's what really confused me. Like if you think Liz is this big threat, you put in who you think is going to take her out, not I just want to bring along my number one. I thought that was really strange.
My approach would always be weighing who I think can take out. Like first, I always put the biggest threat in fire. So if I'm Ben and I am convinced Liz is the biggest threat, cool. All right, I put Liz in. So let's assume Liz is biggest threat. Liz is in. Now I'm deciding between Charlie and Kenzie. And putting personal attachments aside, I'm considering who I have. Like I'm weighing the difference between who can build a better fire and who beating Liz in fire helps them boost their resume. Because unfortunately, fire makes a difference in Survivor. Like whether you like it or not. Yeah, I mean, but it's like almost every season, like Gabler taking out Jesse in fire, it made a difference. It just does. It happens all the time. It is a flashy move right in front of the jury. At the very end, it is recent. It is one of the only things that they see the entire time. And so because of that, it matters. It really, really matters. And so, yeah, that would always be my thought process. Not who do I like more? It's who is this going to be an advantage for more versus who's actually going to beat the person that I perceive as a threat. I'm not thinking about who I care about more. But Ben is an emotional player, and that's what it comes down to. And so he picked Charlie, his what he calls his ride or die since day one, which also confused me because I don't feel like that was made clear in the edit.
wasn't. And Charlie, I had seen some press about it. Charlie said that he wishes they showed more of him and Ben because he said they were extremely close. He said that there was like in the final four when Ben was having his night terrors, he was like running, like carrying Ben in his arms, like running up and down the beach, just like laughing and like having a good time. So they were extremely close. It just was not shown.
Yeah, and that's also one of those things that made me confident that Kenzie was winning was the edit. I know Jeff loves to say that there's no such thing as a winner's edit, but I think that this season proves more than ever that there is.
The him saying there's no winner is such BS.
If Charlie was the winner, the edit would, like the season edit would look completely different. We would have seen, if all of that's true, what Charlie's saying, Ben's panic attacks would have looked different. We wouldn't have seen as many of those centered around Kenzie. We would have seen more centered around Charlie because we need more Charlie time because Charlie's going to be winning. But because Kenzie's going to be winning, we need more Kenzie screen time. So, yeah, it was a very weird decision by Ben to take Charlie. I wonder if Ben took Liz. If Ben didn't think Liz was a good
player,
I guess, or whatever, and Kenzie and Charlie go to fire, I really wonder what happens in the game from that point. I want to know how things turn out.
I mean, I think Charlie would have won in a landslide.
You think?
Yeah.
I mean, was Charlie good at making fire? They were both struggling during the day.
Charlie said he was good.
I thought he was. I thought they were both struggling whenever I saw them.
Showed. No, they showed him making a fire multiple times, and he said in his interviews that he was very confident in making fire, and he also said that the fire making, like Liz's and Kenzie's fire making challenge, took a while. He said he was worried they were going to bring out matches.
Then, yeah, I don't even know then why did Ben send, I don't know why Ben sent Kenzie. If he really thought Liz was that big of a threat, I don't understand Ben's thought process on that at all.
I'm excited. I've seen clips of it, but I don't know what season it is. I don't even know who I know it's two females. I don't know who they are, but they're like making a fire
where they bring out the matches.
And they're just like sitting there, just like striking their flint, like aimlessly for like 2 hours. And then they bring out matches, and they can't even start a fire with the matches.
Yeah, I've seen that season. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but
I've never made a fire in my life, but I feel like I could do it within an hour.
Let me look. I think I know which one it is.
With flint and steel and like proper kindling, I feel like I could definitely make one within an hour, and not just sit there aimlessly striking at it. But, anyways. Is there anything else we want to hit on before we wrap up this episode? Because we've kind of touched on everything now. Talked about both the immunity challenges, votes at the final tribal, Kenzie versus Charlie.
I'm looking at my notes. Venus's side-eye?
Yeah. Oh, wait. We didn't talk about Liz saying that when she lost, that she was going to beat everyone.
It was so over for you guys.
She was like, I would have beat all of you. And then Venus was just like, what? Mm-hmm. I so badly wish in the after show, Jeff would have asked, so if Liz made it to the finals, who would have voted for her? For no one to raise their hands?
Crazy.
I just don't know where she gets it. Know. But yeah, season as a whole, I really enjoyed. I think it had some pretty low points, but I think its highs were just so high. Like
Cook Islands.
Oh, it was Cook Islands?
Yeah, it's Cook Islands.
Okay. But yeah, so 46 as a whole.
I remember now.
Very, very enjoyable season. I'd probably, like, if we're making a tier list, I feel like I'd probably put it in.
Yeah, we have to wait. We have to rank our. We have a new winner. Oh my goodness, that's what we have to do. Survivor winner tier list.
Are we putting our seasons in tier lists too?
Well, we don't have a season tier list.
We should do that as well.
Do we want to make that? We can make a season tier list as well.
I'd probably put this one like in A tier.
Well, here, let's do the winner tier list and then the season tier list. So if we're going to do the winner tier list right now as well, we also need to amend because we haven't done I have since watched season 41, 42, 43. So we have them to add to this too. I have tentatively placed them in, but I think we can add them in.
Maybe we can do a separate episode where and maybe in our episode with talking about season 50, we can do that because that's going to take a while to talk about all these winners. And we're already quite long.
Yeah, I've put them in here. I have tentative places for them where I think they go. I think I'm pretty happy with them. But I guess that more generally, like I'm saying, you and I need to kind of figure out where we put them. Not necessarily like right now in here.
I know where
I know
where would you put Kenzie in.
So right now we have D and great. So we have idol, Hall of Fame, great, good, fine. I ended up moving. I was looking at this as I was adding in Marianne and Erica and Gabler and Ethan after we finished Africa. We haven't put out any content about Africa yet, but as I was kind of adding them in, I put Ethan into great and I dropped Tina down to good after we saw Africa. I felt like that felt more correct. I put Marianne into great as well. I like Marianne a lot. I wanted her in that tier with Ethan D. So for context, I've got them in great. In good, we've got Tina, Jam Jam, and Richard. And then in fine, unoffensive, I have Erica and Gabler. I don't have anyone. We don't have anything below fine, unoffensive. So out of those, where would you put Kenzie?
I personally would put Kenzie in good. She feels solid. I think she's a really good winner, but I think there are holes in her game. I think there are areas of her game that she lacked. I think she had a super high social game, but her strategic game, I think, was lacking.
She had Tina had a really great social game.
Yes, she feels comparable to Tina.
But I think Tina also had a behind-the-scenes strategic game and had to make moves kind of behind the scenes because of the nature of that season. So it's hard to compare. I really, really think that Kenzie feels like Michelle. She feels like Koa Rong Michelle's season. It feels so much like that when we watch Koa Rong, it feels a lot like that season, except she didn't run away with the win. Whereas I think Michelle only, I think Aubrey got 2 votes that season. Michelle got a lot of votes. She ran away with it. So I agree with you. I think she probably goes in good. Where she goes in that, I guess the question is she above or below Jam Jam? Because that's the new era.
I'd put her below, personally. I think Jam Jam had a much more well-rounded game.
Did Jam Jam ever win an immunity challenge?
I think he won 1.
I think he did too. I feel like he won one of those. And then he definitely had some moves. And he had the Tika 3. That's the big thing, is that he kind of ran. I don't know if he really ran the Tika 3. I feel like Carson did a lot of the heavy lifting for the Tika 3, at least from what I felt like we were seeing.
And then when Carson got out, it kind of just fell on Jam Jam.
Yeah. But he did, I think he was a lot of he wasn't afraid to be the cutthroat part of the Tika 3. He wasn't afraid to really go for the throat. So I'm okay with putting Kenzie below Jam Jam in terms of her game.
Yeah, I'm doing this based off of their game.
Yeah, because as a winner of I really love her as a winner. I think that she's a fantastic player, personality, Survivor winner, a great person to hang in the rafters. But in terms of the game that she played, I think that's probably a good placement for right now. I'd agree. And then I think we can probably rank the seasons. Maybe we can touch on that when we talk about season 50 as well.
Yeah. Right now, this feels like an A tier season for me. Because it did have some lows, but the highs just so outshine the lows for me, in my opinion. Maybe teetering towards the lower end of A tier, very high end of B tier.
I think if we're keeping these same tiers, like Idol, Hall of Fame, great, good, fine, unoffensive.
It almost just feels like this falls into a class of its own, where it's just
season
iconic.
46.
Where it's just like a separate bracket outside of like S, A, B, C, D, F tiers, where it's just iconic. I think this is just going to go down as an iconic season of Survivor.
The question is, are you putting in that same tier Gabon?
Of iconic?
Because I don't think this is like Gabon iconic. Because Gabon is like bad iconic, I think. Whereas I think this is great iconic.
Yeah.
And so I think they're different. And so I wouldn't want to put it in the same tier as Gabon. I think that there's like levels to iconic.
I guess that's fair.
So I think that's something we can really discuss. And especially after we start getting through even more seasons, that tier list can really start to flesh itself out as we start to compare the budget era to the first 10 seasons and all that sort of stuff. I think that'll be really interesting.
Well, as we close this chapter on 46, is there anything else you want to say about the season as a whole or about your girl, Kenzie?
I'm proud of myself for spotting the winner from the very beginning, our preseason picks. She was my number one pick in terms of preseason. I had laid out my draft board, watched all the videos, circled her. I was like, all right, I want to take Kenzie. She's my 1-1. I was just like, that's kind of my winner pick. I thought she was going to be a lot more like Parvati-esque, and because she just like gave me a bit more cutthroat, knife behind the back energy, which she gave off those vibes on Yanu, and then it kind of went away post-merge. She played a different game than I expected, but I'm very happy she won. So I'm excited about that, and I am very excited to see this entire cast return for season 46 part 2 whenever they bring them. Literally, they just need to run it back the exact same season again, because I don't see what could go wrong. I think that it would go swimmingly.
Are we what goes wrong?
I don't see a single problem with it.
All right. Well, I thoroughly enjoyed this season. I enjoyed watching it with you. This is our first season of watching Survivor Live with our podcast, so that's exciting too. I really enjoyed getting to dissect our thoughts. I thought it was really enjoyable. It's fun to talk about something that you enjoy, and I hope that our listeners have enjoyed hearing what we have to say about season 46, because I thought we had some insightful stuff to mention every once in a while, maybe.
And if we didn't, don't tell
us. Don't tell us. We don't need to hear that.
No, but actually let us know what you thought about season 46, because we're interested to hear. And let us know what you're most excited to see / not excited to see about season 47, because we know it's going to be a rehash of the same thing we've seen for the last 6 seasons. But we're excited to see season 50 when that inevitably comes back around, because there'll be fun stuff. And that's probably going to be our next
2 years.
episode. Yeah.
Like 2 years. But anyways, thank you so much for coming along on this journey with us through season 46. We hope you have enjoyed our insights and what we've had to say about this season. We've really enjoyed talking about it. It's been the dry season in between new seasons of Survivor. We're going to continue with our rewatching of old seasons and put out any content we feel like. So if there's anything that you want us to make an episode about or talk about, leave us a suggestion and we very well might do it. You can check us out wherever you listen to podcasts, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and you can follow us on social media on Instagram, TikTok, and X/formerly Twitter at Idle Talk Podcasts. If you enjoyed today's episode, if you could leave us a rating / review, we would really appreciate it, as it helps our podcast grow.
Thanks so much for listening, and we will catch you guys in the next one.